Is anyone else concerned that we're picking up stims we've been told could be contaminated with blight and shooting the contents directly into our bodies without a second thought? I was expecting at least a cutscene or some new lines from Hadron or something that explain why it's totally okay for us to be taking tainted performance enhancers, but I guess just using drugs you find on the street is fine. YouTube monetization policies require me to remind you that drugs are not cool. Do not do drugs, especially ones that you found on the street. Seems like a pretty big plot hole to gloss over. We're supposed to just forget that the entire point of the first Carnival mission is to get a sample of tainted stims for examination and accept that this was all just a device so Fat Shark could throw stims into the game? Why not just throw them into the game then? Did our warband start making untainted stims and then sent others into Tertium to hide them in little boxes for us? The stims we're taking are probably the same ones used by the Moebian 21st and other regiments to enhance their combat capabilities and keep them alive on the battlefield. What, you thought Morrow was embroidering those nice little satchels they come in? No way. These are standard issue, or at least popular contraband. We know that these drugs have been in production for longer than the Siege of Tertium has been going on, because when you do the new Warren 619 mission with Morrow and Rannick tagging along via Vox transmission, they tell us this.
Can't be sure, but I think this place predates the invasion. It would seem that there is more rotten in Tertium than was immediately apparent. Something stinks about this. This place has been here for years. Conspiracy and heresy go hand in hand. Brenda will not be happy, but nor Brenda will be surprised.
So, who's responsible for this operation? Gangs and drug operations stereotypically go hand in hand. We know about the water cartel that exists in Tertium, and they seem to have been hit hard and possibly wiped out by the zombie virus spread by admonition. Though, there isn't any sign of the water cartel present in either of the Carnival missions or in the drug lab that we destroy in the finale of Warren 619. It wouldn't necessarily be reasonable to expect seeing water cartel banners in the Carnival itself, but if they were responsible for the drug lab, it's likely we'd see some sign of it, even if they didn't want to deck out the lab in their branding for obvious reasons. In fact, the two dead bodies we do see in the drug lab finale appear to be loyalists, if not Wormwood operatives. So the question remains, whose lab was this originally? Was it Water Cartel? A production lab somehow sanctioned by the magistrate for the production of military use stims that got sold to others on the side? A different gang? Whatever the case may be, there's a strong possibility that whomever was in charge was either contracted or infiltrated by the cult of admonition to start tainting the drugs with manufactured diseases. If stims were widely used within the Moebian combat forces while on deployments in the Fringe War, it's possible tainted stims may have made it into the hands of soldiers. And if that did happen, soldiers would probably start getting sick. And not just regular sick either, Nurgle levels of sick. Illness that makes your body rot and your nose fall off your face. Sickness that would be so pervasive and unstoppable that you might make a deal with the devil just to stop the pain and spare your life. One big question I know many of us have about the fall of the Moebian 6 is, out of all the chaos gods you could turn to, why Nurgle? Nurgle may be popular from a Warhammer audience perspective, but put yourself in the position of someone who's looking to chaos for power or desperation to get yourself out of a bad situation. Slaanesh is sexy and promises delights beyond your wildest imagination. Khorne, if you're a soldier or warrior, offers you honorable combat where you'd reach your highest potential of strength. For those interested in the mysteries of the universe or wanting to know and possibly change the future, Tzeentch is gonna be the guy whispering in your ear. Nurgle? Hardcore fans of Dr. Pimple Popper MD might find themselves drawn to Nurgle, I guess. I mean, there's someone out there for every niche. But Nurgle being the chaos god of the cycle of life and death, those who seek him out are usually deathly ill and downcast, looking to prolong their lives. From an in-universe perspective, Nurgle has the lowest brain potential for a lot of people looking to turn to chaos because they're sick of the Imperium, especially for powerful warriors. But it is a fairly common theme in 40k media that revolves around falling to Nurgle, that when the powerful are on the cusp of succumbing to one of his diseases, they call out in despair for anyone to save save them, and who better to answer the call than the power that put you there in the first place? Maybe the Moebian 6 are dedicated to Nurgle specifically, and not just Chaos Undivided after all. If they ended up stricken with a disease due to tainted Stimms they used out in the field, that would definitely track. And while this story has been unfolding in Darktide itself, Fat Shark has been feeding us pieces of a tandem story about Explicator Zola in other media. Her perceived strangeness may be coming into clearer focus. Last video, I mentioned the Vox Intercept 2 transmission that came out before part 2 of the Traitor Curse was released. This informed us through a conversation between Morrow and Rannick that none of us were meant to hear, that Zola has been slipping away to go into Tertium herself. She's been obsessively hunting down Wolfer and was lying to Morrow about her permission to do so. Rannick is less than impressed upon hearing this, stating that obsession is often dangerous.
Did she now? How very assertive of her. Still chasing Wolfer, is she?
Couldn't say so. She doesn't exactly confide in me.
Obsession is always dangerous.
We also got an entry from Zola's personal journal about the Karnak twins, as well as a fresh Vox Intercept 3 on December 8th. From both her journal and the transmission, it seems that Zola is actually familiar with Rinda and Roden Karnak. She refers to them as Tertium-born and traitors of the worst kind. She's hell-bent on ending their lives and personally won't rest until it's done. In Intercept 3, we hear Zola in the middle of combat with her team on the hunt for Wolfer, but end up finding Rinda Karnak instead. Zola calls her the Butcher of Bragner, and more surprising, Rinda seems to know who Zola is.
That Rinda Karnak, the Butcher of Bragner. I know you're out there, Zola.
The Karnak sister calls out to Zola in the same voice we hear from the Part 2 teaser trailer, confirming the identity of our mystery woman as Rinda Karnak. She eggs Zola on, telling her she knows Zola is out there and to come prove herself against her in combat. She then yells out to Zola that Wolfer said she had guts.
Want to prove yourself? Wolfer said you had guts. I want to see her up close.
Which is all oddly personal. Since Rinda heard secondhand from Wolfer that Zola is brave, the two women may not be familiar with each other directly, but it certainly seems Zola and Wolfer have a history. If Rinda and Zola have crossed paths before, it's unclear what type of relationship they had if Wolfer is giving the Karnak twins information about our Explicator. But Zola is certainly aware of Rinda's reputation. Was Rinda known as the Butcher of Bragner before the invasion of Tertium? Our field of view for a main storyline is narrowing, and it all seems to center around Zola. Who was Zola before she came into the service of Grendel's retinue? We know she grew up rough in the Torrent and has no love lost for the Water Cartel. Perhaps she had dealings with them in the past that makes her grudge a little more personal. Was she like us? An accused criminal who Grendel saw use for? Having a personal relationship with Wolfer would make Zola a very valuable asset. And it's seeming more likely that Grendel might be the only one who knows the secrets of her past within the warband. Having Grendel give her carte blanche is pretty much the only way I can think to explain why Rannick wouldn't have Zola in timeout for going off on her own without his permission. Sneaking around and not answering the interrogator's phone call is a bold move, and then she comes back to the Morningstar and keeps passing out missions like everything is hunky-dory. If Grendel did pick up Zola as a valuable asset because of her personal relationship with Wolfer, then who is Wolfer to Zola? A lover? A family member or father figure? Did they serve together in the Astra Militarum? Or were they loyal friends and gang members producing drugs for both military and recreational use? Maybe Zola has a fondness for the rejects and was the one to offer us all a second chance because she knows we're in her same position. Whomever she was, whatever background Zola came from, she seems to hold a heavy burden of personal responsibility in stopping Wolfer and the Karnak twins. It's very likely that at least in some way, Zola blames herself for what's happened in Tertium. And hopefully, we won't see that guilt and obsession drive her into the arms of chaos too.